The lights burn white-hot against a tense backdrop of murmurs and shifting glances. A national audience watches, waiting the kind of silence that feels electric. Mike Johnson leans into his mic, the tone of a man too used to being heard, too confident that charm can double as truth. His words glide out like barbed wire, dressed in politeness, but meant to cut. The host forces a smile, caught between professionalism and discomfort. Somewhere in the front row, someone exhales too loudly across from him. Jasmine Crockett doesn't move. No rebuttal. No reaction. Just focus razor-sharp still. Johnson mistakes her silence for surrender. He leans closer, delivering one more smug remark that earns a few uneasy chuckles from the audience. And then, she speaks 5 words. Clean, precise, final. The sound hits like a verdict, slicing through his pretense and the room's oxygen all at once. The crowd goes still. Cameras zoom in on Johnson's face, the flicker of realization. The crumble of control. The host glances toward Jasmine, then to the camera, sensing what just happened. History condensed into a sentence. But to understand why those 5 words hit so hard, the narrator murmurs, "We need to see how the storm began. This wasn't politics. It was theater staged on national airwaves." With 2 opposing visions of America colliding under fluorescent light, on one side sat Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House, draped in self-assured authority. His voice carried the tone of tradition, of a man who believed rules and reverence were his birthright. To his followers, he represented order, faith, structure, control. Across from him sat Jasmine Crockett, younger, sharper, unbothered. She didn't inherit power. She earned her place, step by step, in a system that wasn't built to welcome her. Her calm wasn't submission, it was focus. The kind that makes arrogance nervous. Every word exchanged between them carried history. Gender tension. Generational friction. The old guard testing the new. Johnson didn't just question her, he challenged. Her right to stand on equal ground. The audience could feel it. This wasn't about one argument. It was about who gets to define strength in a country still wrestling with its reflection. Commentators would later call it a cultural reckoning disguised as a debate. David facing Goliath. Except this time, David's weapon wasn't a stone. It was composure. But to grasp what cracked Johnson's composure, the narrator teases, we have to look at the man who thought he couldn't be shaken. Mike Johnson's story begins not in chaos, but in control, the kind that masks insecurity with a smile. He rose through the ranks by presenting himself as the reasonable conservative, the calm voice in a storm of outrage. To the cameras, he was measured. To the base, he was loyal. To his party, he was safe. Or so they thought. But power built on polished hides cracks beneath the gloss. Behind closed doors, aides spoke of a man obsessed with the mirror, not the kind that reflects, but the kind that distorts. Every word rehearsed. Every gesture calculated. He wore humility like a tailored suit, stitched together with ambition. Johnson's politeness was a strategy. His civility was camouflage. He learned that domination didn't need to shout, it could whisper in scripture. Smile through hypocrisy, and still claim moral high ground. He quoted faith when it suited him, invoked family when it softened him, and wielded righteousness as both shield and sword. Those closest to him saw the truth. He wasn't leading, he was controlling. Dissent made him restless. Women who challenged him made him defensive. Every strong voice reminded him of the one thing he couldn't command: respect freely given in congressional hearings. His mask sometimes slipped. He'd interrupt mid-sentence, twist words into traps, then lean back with that practiced smirk as if daring anyone to question his authority. The cameras caught it, even when he thought they didn't. He didn't debate to understand. He debated to dominate. His goal wasn't persuasion. It was preservation of hierarchy, of ego, of the illusion that power meant virtue. And that's why Jasmine Crockett unnerved him. She didn't rise from privilege or power. She rose from persistence. Where he sought control, she embodied conviction. Her confidence didn't seek validation. It revealed his need for it. In that studio, the contrast was electric. He spoke with the entitlement of someone used to being obeyed. She listened with the patience of someone used to being underestimated. He mistook that silence for submission. He couldn't have been more wrong. But while Johnson sharpened his image through control, Jasmine forged hers through fire. Jasmine Crockett's strength wasn't inherited, it was earned. Case by case, voice by voice. Long before the marble halls of Congress ever echoed her name, her battlefield was a Texas courtroom, where justice wasn't guaranteed and dignity was often on trial. She defended those who couldn't afford to lose, mothers, veterans, the overlooked and unheard. To her, every case was a reminder that truth rarely came wrapped in privilege. She didn't rise through connections. She rose through confrontation, not the kind that seeks chaos, but the kind that demands clarity. She faced judges who doubted her, opponents who dismissed her, and systems that tried to exhaust her into silence. But Jasmine had learned early that silence was never neutral. Every time she stood, someone else found the courage too. Her voice, steady yet unyielding, became her armor. She spoke not to perform, but to protect. Every word carried the weight of those she'd once stood beside in courtrooms, the wrongly accused, the marginalized, the forgotten. In a system designed to wear people down, she became the counterforce. Calculated, and impossible to intimidate. When she entered Congress, that same fire followed her. The establishment didn't know what to do with a woman who didn't play by their unspoken rules. They called her too bold, too direct, too real. Each label was meant as an insult. Jasmine treated them as confirmation. She believed representation wasn't about comfort, it was about confrontation. Not the petty kind, but the principled one. The kind that holds power accountable, even when it trembles. Her presence in that chamber was more than symbolic. It was generational. She wasn't there to blend in. She was there to be seen and to make others feel seen too. Her conviction came from a place deeper than politics, from a life spent proving that dignity and defiance can coexist. She'd stood in rooms where every glance tried to shrink her, where every word was tested for tone, and still, she never lost her composure. That wasn't restraint, it was strategy. So when the moment came to face Mike Johnson, the man who mistook dominance for discipline and control for leadership, she didn't need preparation. She'd been preparing her entire life. Every courtroom, every insult, every headline that tried to define her, all of it forged the calm now written across her face as the cameras blinked on. And when the cameras rolled, the narrator breathes. All that calm and conviction would finally be tested. The debate began like so many others, with confidence masquerading as control. Mike Johnson leaned back in his chair, wearing that familiar smirk that said, "I've done this 1,000 times." His voice carried the rehearsed rhythm of someone used to being the loudest man in the room. "Congresswoman," he began, dragging out the title like a warning, "you seem passionate. But passion isn't policy." The audience chuckled on cue, some nodding, others waiting for her to flinch. She didn't. Jasmine Crockett just sat there, calm, still, unbothered. She didn't rush to defend herself or interrupt. She simply listened. The patience in her silence was unnerving. Johnson mistook it for weakness. The way powerful men often do when met with composure instead of compliance, he pushed harder, piling on statistics, quotes, and condescension. He raised his voice slightly, not enough to seem angry, but just enough to remind everyone who was in charge. The laughter from the crowd swelled again. The host shifted uncomfortably, but Jasmine's eyes never left him. Each time he cut her off, she let the interruption land and dissolve. Each time he tried to bait her, she offered nothing. No flinch, no sigh, no smile. Just silence. And slowly, the silence began to work. Johnson's rhythm cracked. His tone tightened. He leaned forward now, trying to reassert dominance. His words clipping faster, his eyes searching hers for a hint of reaction. Any sign that she was rattled, but she wasn't. She'd been here before, just in different rooms. With different faces trying to wield the same kind of power. When she finally spoke, her voice cut through the air, low, deliberate, precise. It wasn't a rebuttal. It was a dismantling. Each word was placed carefully, as if she were dismantling his argument piece by piece. Leaving nothing for him to grab hold of, the audience grew still. The laughter stopped. The energy shifted from spectacle to silence. Johnson blinked. He opened his mouth to interrupt again, but she'd already taken control. Each pause she made tightened the air. Each calm phrase drew him closer to unraveling. And then, 5 words, precise, poetic, unstoppable, flipped the entire exchange. Jasmine Crockett leaned slightly forward, eyes locked on Mike Johnson. There is no tremor in her voice, no dramatic pause for effect, only calm authority. The kind that makes a room stop breathing without a sound. She begins with a line meant not to provoke, but to disarm. Thank you, Congressman, for your question. The words hang in the air, polite, measured, almost incongruous against the tension buzzing in the studio, and then the moment arrives. 5 words. Simple, final, devastating. Your control doesn't equal truth. The room goes still. The silence is not empty. It vibrates. Palpable. Seismic. Johnson blinks, mouth opening and closing like a man trying to find air and water. The moderator clears their throat, searching for footing, while cameras swivel, capturing every twitch, every narrowing of eyes. The audience shifts in their seats, murmurs strangled into astonishment. Reporters lean forward, pens paused above notepads, capturing the cadence of a statement that will dominate headlines. The man who built a reputation on calm, authority, precision, and intimidation now looks smaller, exposed. His practiced smirk dissolved into something raw. Disbelief. Johnson opens his mouth to speak, but the words stumble. His rhythm falters. For the first time on live television, he is no longer the one shaping the narrative, he is reacting. Trapped by the clarity of a truth delivered with unshakable composure, Crockett doesn't press her advantage. She doesn't repeat it, doesn't elaborate, doesn't gloat. She simply leans back, shoulders squared, eyes unwavering. Her presence is the punctuation mark, her silence the echo of the sentence. Every camera catches it. Every viewer at home feels it. The staffers behind the cameras exchange glances. Someone whispers, "Did you see that? Did she just—" And the sentence dies unspoken because everyone knows the answer. Social media is already imagining hashtags that don't exist yet. Clips will spread faster than this moment can fade. In those 5 words, she dismantled years of rehearsed dominance. Years of strategic interruption and the illusion that control is equivalent to power. It wasn't just a rebuttal. It was a revelation, a statement about authority, humility, and the kind of leadership that earns respect rather than demands it. The man who never lost a debate stands momentarily frozen. His jaw tightens, his eyes dart, his fingers clench. Across the room, the audience exhales as one the collective recognition that they just witnessed something extraordinary. Crockett nods once, ever so slightly, acknowledging the room, acknowledging the gravity, but never lowering herself to triumphalism. She sits back, calm, composed, unshakable, and as the cameras continue to roll, capturing every angle, every expression, one truth becomes undeniable. This is more than politics. This is clarity in action. This is dignity meeting challenge, and challenge being humbled by it. But outside that studio, the narrator intones, voice low but insistent, her words would travel faster than any speech ever could. The digital world erupted. Hashtag 5 words trended across Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok, climbing faster than any political clip in recent memory. Every feed seemed to pulse with the moment Jasmine Crockett had carved into history. 5 words that carried more weight than hours of debate. Video clips accumulated millions of views. Analysts dissected every second, the pause before she spoke, the cadence of each syllable, the way her eyes never wavered. Commentators called it the calmest takedown in political history, noting that precision had overtaken theatrics in a single, unforgettable instant. Late-night hosts couldn't resist. One joked 3 minutes of him, 5 words of her, and suddenly, balance is restored. Memes exploded, Johnson's shocked expression juxtaposed with Crockett's poised nod. Celebrities and journalists alike quoted her, framing the moment as a masterclass in controlled power. Even political opponents, usually quick to dismiss her, conceded that was surgical. News networks replayed the exchange repeatedly. Each replay emphasized the stark contrast: Johnson flustered and exposed, Crockett composed and unwavering. Social media amplified it further. Clips were remixed, slowed down, captioned, and shared globally. Hashtags like #ComposureWins and #TruthOverNoise began to trend alongside #5words. Meanwhile, Johnson's office remained silent. Attempts to pivot the narrative fell flat. Press releases lacked the viral energy of Crockett's delivery. The internet had already made its judgment. The moment wasn't about who shouted louder, it was about who held their ground. The phrase "the day composure won" began appearing in headlines, tweets, and opinion pieces, a shorthand for the quiet power she had displayed. Across the country, viewers shared their own stories of being underestimated, interrupted, or dismissed. Crockett's 5 words became more than a response to a single man. They became a symbol of endurance, dignity, and clarity in the face of intimidation. And yet through the noise, she remained composed. She didn't celebrate. She didn't gloat. She allowed the moment to speak for itself. Transition cliffhanger, because for Jasmine Crockett, this wasn't about humiliation. It was about evolution. And the lesson would resonate far beyond the cameras. When asked about the moment in interviews that followed, Jasmine Crockett's expression softened, quiet confidence replacing any sense of triumph. "I wasn't trying to win," she said. "I was trying to remind him, and everyone watching, that truth doesn't tremble." Those 5 words, delivered under pressure, became more than a rebuttal. They became a lesson, a mantra for anyone who has faced intimidation, dismissal, or the constant hum of doubt. In a world where outrage often drowns reason, Crockett showed that restraint carries its own weight, that composure can be louder than chaos. Her calm didn't diminish the conversation. It reshaped it. It proved that authority isn't about volume or theatrics, but clarity, conviction, and the courage to stand firm, even when every instinct screams to fight back. It wasn't about proving him wrong. It was about proving that measured strength endures. That dignity under scrutiny is more powerful than aggression in the moment. For viewers across the nation, response became a mirror. It reflected the quiet victories of those who have been underestimated, talked over, or forced to navigate spaces designed to silence them. It reminded them that real power is not in domination, but in mastery of oneself, and the ability to respond with intent rather than reaction. Her 5 words did not just end a debate. They reframed it. They shifted the conversation from confrontation to principle, from spectacle to substance. They left a mark on politics, on social media, and on anyone paying attention to what leadership really looks like in an era defined by noise, transition, cliffhanger. And in that redefinition, a new kind of strength was born, one that would ripple far beyond the cameras, inspiring those who understand that true power is measured not by who shouts the loudest, but by who stands unwavering when all eyes are watching. The narrator's voice carries a measured calm in 5 words. She didn't just win a debate. She reclaimed the meaning of power. What began as a typical exchange on national television transformed into something far greater, a lesson in composure, courage, and clarity. A reminder that true influence isn't measured by volume or intimidation, but by the strength to stand firm when the world is watching. Her sentence rippled beyond the studio walls, reaching living rooms, timelines, and hearts across the nation. It became proof that leadership is not about theatrics, but about intentional, unwavering presence. Because sometimes the narrator continues. It doesn't take a speech to make history. It takes a single sentence spoken with conviction. Call to action. If you believe in truth over theatrics, in strength without shouting, share this story. Let her words inspire others to stand tall, speak clearly, and remember that dignity deserves to echo louder than chaos. Be part of the movement that values composure, clarity, and courage over noise and spectacle.